Mystery. It is the very thing that makes a story worth telling, isn't it? We are drawn to the unknown, the unsolved, the hidden corners of the mind that refuse to be exposed. And yet, there is one mystery that has plagued lovers, poets, and scholars alike. A riddle whispered through generations, leaving frustration, heartbreak, and longing in its wake. How do you make an avoidant finally open up? Ah, yes. The one who pulls away just as you draw near. The one who loves in the shadows, where affection is safe, controlled, and distant. The one who builds walls not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. They vanish when love begins to feel too real. They withdraw when connection starts to demand something of them. And yet, if you listen closely, you will hear it. The sound of someone who wants to be known but does not know how. And today, my dear listener, I will tell you the one thing that forces an avoidant to finally open up. But before we arrive at the answer, let me take you through a story. Because understanding the avoidant is not a matter of knowledge. It is a matter of patience, of nuance, of knowing where to look when all seems silent. The man who vanished. There was once a man. Let's call him Alexander. Alexander was the kind of man who left an impression wherever he went. Not because he was loud, no, but because he mastered the art of presence while remaining untouchable. A man who could make you feel as if you were the most interesting person in the room, and yet, when you reached for him, he was already gone. He had a particular way of loving, if you could call it that. He adored the chase, the anticipation, the flirtation that never quite solidified. He thrived in moments before things became concrete. But when they did, oh, he became the ghost you swore you saw in the doorway. Then came Evelyn. Evelyn did what no one had done before. She saw through him, not in the way most lovers do, mistaking the chase for connection, but truly saw him. And do you know what Alexander did when he felt that warmth, that understanding? He left. Not abruptly. That would be too obvious, too impolite. No, he left in degrees. A missed call, a postponed plan, a shift in tone so subtle you would think you imagined it. And Evelyn, like many before her, did what seemed only natural. She reached. She asked. She reassured. She tried to bridge the gap with kindness, with patience, with understanding. And the more she reached, the further he retreated, until one day, he was simply gone. Why they run? Now we arrive at the part that confounds the heartbroken, the confused, the ones left wondering what they did wrong. You see, an avoidant does not run because they do not care. No, they run because they care more than they can allow themselves to admit. Love, to them, is not a homecoming. It is a risk that once, long ago, proved to be dangerous. Perhaps they learned that closeness meant obligation, that vulnerability was a liability, that love, once tasted, could be ripped away. So they adapted. They became masters of detachment, of leaving before they could be left, of keeping one foot outside the door at all times. And when someone tries to pull them closer, oh, they feel the walls closing in, the air thinning, the fear rising. This is not about you. It never was. This is about survival. And so they run. But now, dear listener, we arrive at the question that matters most. What then makes them stop? What forces an avoidant to finally open up? The one thing that changes everything. Evelyn, like most, thought the answer was more love, more reassurance, more proof that she was not like the others. But here lies the great tragedy. You cannot convince an avoidant that love is safe. They must arrive at that truth on their own. And so Evelyn did what no one had ever done before. She stopped, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of something far more powerful. Acceptance. She did not chase, she did not beg, she did not try to make him see her worth. She simply let him go. And then, something remarkable happened. Alexander, once so sure of his ability to disappear, felt the weight of his own absence. For the first time, there was no one reaching for him, no one proving they would stay, no one making him the center of their longing. He was alone, and in that silence, in that space where he was left to face himself, something unfamiliar crept in. Regret. You see, an avoidant expects pursuit. They know how to resist what chases them. But what they do not know how to resist is the one who walks away without fear. Because that is the one thing they never prepared for. That is the one thing that forces them to confront what they fear most, not losing you, but realizing they pushed away something real. And so the only way to make an avoidant open up is to stop trying to make them. What happens next? And here we come to the moment of truth. Will they return? Perhaps. Perhaps not. That is not the point. The point is that the ones who open up are not the ones who are convinced. They are the ones who are given space to choose. And should they choose, then, and only then, is it real. Not because they were caught, but because they finally wanted to stay. So, my dear listener, if you find yourself in the presence of an avoidant, remember this. Do not chase, do not plead, do not try to outlove their fear. Simply stand, strong, unmoved, certain of your own worth. And then, watch what happens next. If this has spoken to you, if you have seen yourself in these words, then stay. There is much more to uncover about love, about fear, and about the delicate art of standing still when all the world tells you to run. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Because sometimes the only thing standing between a love lost and a love returned is the moment when you finally stop reaching for it. Until next time, stay wise, stay strong, and above all, stay free.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.